You are at the forefront of AI transformation for your enterprise, unlocking groundbreaking opportunity, boosting efficiency, and creating new experiences. Spearheading key use cases, navigating risks, and balancing business needs while forging ahead with the right solutions to achieve success. To excel in this evolving landscape, you need a trusted AI partner. And that partner is HPE. For more than 5 decades, we've helped organizations solve some of the biggest data and compute-intensive challenges. As AI pushes the boundaries of traditional enterprise computing, draw upon our experience and expertise in supercomputing. As power and cooling demands grow, benefit from our legacy of advanced cooling innovations. And as AI goes mainstream, we'll help you meet new demands of data, scale, and control. When you extend AI across your enterprise, rely on infrastructure that protects your workloads and data. From transforming data to becoming more productive with AI to looking beyond the horizon, leverage our deep experience, global expertise, and the power of the NVIDIA AI Computing by HPE portfolio to drive your enterprise toward its AI destination.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Discover, and it's so great to be back in Barcelona again, and thanks for joining our session. Now, AI has the power to change our industries, our businesses, and even our productivity. And there's so much promise, but a lot of the potential and the value sometimes is really hard to get to. So a lot of customers need help. And when I think of help, I think about my dad. My mom and dad were both nurses, and they met in a hospital. And whenever my dad saw a car accident that didn't have the ambulance there, he would stop to see if he could help. And he kept a medical bag in the back just to be able to do that. And I was young, and I was wondering, you know, every time my dad stops, there's always all these people that are already there. It's like, why is my dad stopping when they already have so much help? So one day, he stopped, and I could actually see exactly what was happening. And I couldn't get out of the car. I wasn't allowed to get out of the car, but I could see what was happening. And I could see my dad was the only person doing anything. My dad was the only real help that they had. He had the tools, the experience, and the expertise to really help. Everybody else was just standing there looking at them. And then I could tell the difference between people who wanted to help and the people who had the expertise to help. And I'm really happy to say at HPE, we have the expertise and experience to help customers on their AI journey. And when we help customers with their AI journey, we found that there's a lot of common challenges. And I'm going to talk to you about those challenges and what we've done to provide real help to help them overcome those challenges. So, first challenge, not having an AI strategy. I was talking to a CIO, and he was pretty advanced in AI, and he said, you know, it didn't start that way. He said, the first time I wanted to do something around AI, I called all the business leaders into the room, and I asked them, what can I do for you around AI? And they all had blank stares on their face. They had no idea how they could leverage AI. And one of them finally said something. He's like, you don't even have the data for that. You have to have the data for that. And so what happened was he let that session end, and he brought him in again. And he had a different strategy. And this time, he asked some prompting questions like, you know, what kind of data you have that you want to take advantage of? What business problems are you trying to solve? How are you trying to get closer to your customers? And then all the ideas started pouring out, and that's when they really got started on their AI journey. Now, at HPE, we have the expertise and the experience to help. We have a global award-winning advisory and professional services division that can help, and they can help answer those common questions like, I have this data, what kind of use cases would be appropriate for this data? And how could I leverage an existing large language model? We can assess your data, we can assess your privacy and security concerns, your budget, and your people and talent. So we can really help with that when it comes to figuring out your AI strategy. The next challenge, this one's probably gonna sound familiar to everybody. The not having the right data strategy. I was talking to another CIO. I was gonna have lunch with her. I was really excited because I was like, I want to learn all about her AI journey. Well, it was a short conversation. She said, Krista, I don't even have my data together. I can't think about AI. AI is data-driven, and you have to have your data together, and you have to know where it's coming from and what it's going to be used for in order to make sure that you're leveraging it in the right way and minimizing and managing your risks. So when it comes to this, we've helped customers manage their data. We had one large company in financial services in Korea, and what they wanted to do is they wanted to improve their customer experiences and increase their productivity. The problem was they had data everywhere, and they needed to be able to pull all of that together. And they looked at different solutions, but their challenge was the AI software companies they saw, there were just too many of them. It was too complicated. They didn't want to go through all of that. So what we did was we stood up an end-to-end solution for them so that they would have unified data workflows and they could leverage their open source Korean large language model. So this really helped them on their way. Now, the next one, we all know that the world is hybrid, right? Which means that there's some things that are great in the public cloud and some things that are great on premises. And what we're hearing from customers when it comes to AI is that they're struggling because they have private data they don't want in a public cloud. The other thing is, once you're up and going with AI, what is that bill going to look like? Surprise, it's a lot higher than they thought it was going to be. So we have customers that are challenged with that. And there's one customer we have, a manufacturing customer, and they were challenged, and they had a very specific problem they wanted to solve. So they were getting thousands of RFPs a month. So requests for proposals, and they needed to respond to those, and they wanted to leverage Gen AI to do it. They wanted the Gen AI to search the database, get the template, and then automatically generate a response. And their challenge was they looked at cloud, but they were concerned because cloud didn't meet their data governance requirements, and it wasn't cost effective. So we created a solution for them where we developed an end-to-end on-prem solution for them, and they were able to meet both of their requirements, the cost control and the data security and privacy concern. So they were really happy because they leveraged an existing large language model, they put an application on top, and then they were able to generate those responses to RFPs. Now, AI is evolutionary. Some of you are probably already taking advantage of it. HPE and NVIDIA have been working with industries across all types of countries and segments to work together to make things easier for customers. And in order to talk a little bit more about that, I would like to invite up Mike Mangiafico from NVIDIA to join me on the stage. He is the Director of Product Management for OEM Enterprise Platforms. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining me, Mike.
All right.
All right. Okay, so AI has evolved so much. First thing I want you to do is share with us what things people can do more today than they ever could before in multiple industries.
Yeah, so when you think about how it's evolved, I mean, 5 years ago, AI was still very much experimental. Access was difficult. It was focused on very specific tasks. You were doing things like image recognition, classification, computer vision. And a good example of that might be a manufacturing assembly line where you're doing anomaly detection to detect things early enough in the process to remove those. Or you could have computer vision where you're doing things, maybe it's home and commercial security systems where you can do facial recognition to make sure someone isn't in your house at 3 a.m. that shouldn't be there. So that was one way to do it. But today, over the last few years, we've seen that AI has totally transformed. With generative AI, it kind of turned AI upside down, where you now have the ability for the first time to generate inference in the form of speech, text, image, and video all in real time. This is something you couldn't do in the past. And it's the main topic for every industry, for every vertical, for every customer, where they want to deploy these AI solutions. They want to generate and improve their productivity as quickly as they can. And so businesses across the globe are now learning from their own data. They're answering questions, they're solving problems that generally was trapped in spreadsheets or product documents. And so now they have the ability to get that access to that data. And in the future, we're going to see AI start to learn from AI. And some people think this is scary. It's not. It's really going to advance, and it's being called agentic AI, where it's going to be capable of perceiving, reasoning, learning, and of course, generating amounts of data. As Chris has said, AI is driven by data. And so AI will generate its own data. And a great example of that was just this morning I was reading, I'm from Massachusetts in the United States, and Boston is deploying a new system based on AI where they're going to improve traffic flow in the city of Boston. If anyone's been to Boston, terrible traffic. So this is a perfect example of how AI is going to learn from AI and how bots are going to talk to bots, because they're going to deploy computer vision on the traffic cameras to help traffic flow within the city. So a lot of great things coming for agentic AI.
Well, you talked about computer vision. Could you talk a little bit about how different industries are leveraging computer vision?
Yeah, so AI is advancing almost every industry. In healthcare is one of the most important. I think it's important to NVIDIA, and I think it's important to everyone here in this room. And there's 3 areas in which we focus on in healthcare at NVIDIA. And the first is medical devices. And this is sort of the integration of NVIDIA technology into things like medical robots or even medical imaging like CT scanners or MRI machines, even genomic sequencers. The second is digital health. And digital health is really important because this is where you now have patient interaction with the digital human. So let's say you're post-op from a surgery, you're home recovering, and your doctor wants to find out how you're doing, but your doctor has a lot of surgeries that he's doing during the day, or he has a lot of patient care he's taking care of in the office. You now have the ability at home to log into an iPad, a computer system, and have a virtual conversation with a digital human. That digital human is going to ask you questions. How are you feeling? How are you recovering? How's your incision? How's your pain level? And you have this conversation with this digital human. They'll synthesize a report and send it to the doctor. And so when the doctor has time, he reviews that report, and then he can follow up with you or with the digital human to come back and ask more questions. And the last is digital biology. And there's a couple areas we're really focused on for digital biology. And the first is really advancing drug discovery. It roughly takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years to bring a new drug to market, and it costs anywhere from $2 to $3 billion to do so. And so when you think about that, 15 years ago, think about what you were doing 15 years ago. It was 2009. I know what I was doing, but it's a tremendous amount of time. So when you look at a medical professional that's trying to bring a drug to market, it's possible that they may only be able to do that once, maybe twice in their career, depending upon how long it takes. And so with accelerated computing, we're hoping to not only decrease the cost investment to do that, but also to accelerate the time to bring it to market. And another one with genomics that is really special, and maybe some of you out here work in that field, is when we first cracked the human genome. It was back in 2003. And so it took 13 years to do it, though, and billions of dollars. It started in 1990, it finished in 2003, and it cost, again, billions of dollars to do that, and we only cracked a single human genome. And so since then, we're able now to sequence the human genome, and you can do it today for under $100. You can go to the doctor, you can do a cheek swab, you can do a blood test, and now you can have your DNA sequenced. And so some of you that aren't working in this field might say, well, why would you do that? Well, let's say you are a descendant from where your grandfather and your father maybe suffered from heart disease. Maybe they had heart attacks before the age of 50. Here you are in your early 40s, and you're starting to think, am I just waiting for something to happen? What can I do to help solve that? You could go to your doctor and talk to him. But if you go and get your DNA sequence, or your genomic sequence, you can unlock those traits within your DNA that is going to really help advance that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And really, when it comes to advances in healthcare, that's probably one of the things I'm looking forward to the most when it comes to AI.
Yeah, and medical imaging here is another one, as I mentioned on the first one when we talked about the digital devices. And, you know, this is a really big area that we also think is really important. And so we've now provided acceleration to equipped in healthcare that we can do things like improve the accuracy of early cancer detection. And this is a really big one that's important, I think, to everyone here. We lose 10 million people a year to cancer, and 20 million new cases, not pre-existing, but 20 million new cases are registered every year. And so it's a staggering number. And so we want to figure out how we can help in this field, and we're helping. We're helping by building and helping to build these powerful digital AI assistants where radiologists can be assisted to speed up things like CT scan analysis. So an average radiologist, you know, works significant hours. And so during his workday, if it's a 10 to 14-hour workday, he might be able to only look at about 30 scans a day. It takes him anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to review a single scan. And so what we're able to do now with powerful AI assistants is they can assist a radiologist in reviewing the scan to where they can just solve it in just seconds. They can look at it, not only read it, but highlight any areas of concern, mark out nodules, anything in that scan in just seconds. And there's story and story again. There was just one Thursday that I was listening to where a doctor was reviewing a mammogram, and he didn't see anything. But as a backup, they had deployed these new AI assistants. They had the AI assistant review it, and sure enough, it found something. And so the biggest thing is we want to remove is false positives in addition to false negatives, because either one could be detrimental to a patient. And so if we can use AI and we can improve early cancer detection by just a fraction, 10%, it's 1 million people we could save. It's someone's mother, it's a father, it's a brother, it's a cousin, it's a friend, it's a colleague. And so I think it's really important that we try to do what we can to advance it in this space.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks for talking us through that. Now, I'd love if you can share how other industries are leveraging the power of AI.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them, and there's a few examples we'll walk through quickly, but the first is financial services with fraud prevention. This is really a big focus, and the reason being is that banking is now more complex and riskier than ever. It is said that we lose upwards of $500 billion a year to fraud. And this is a global number that we're losing, and the trend is going upwards. So our joint customers, just like us, don't want to lose money. Banks and credit card companies don't want to lose money to fraud. And what they want to do is they want to improve the process in which to secure your money, which is also their money. And so what they're doing is implementing new AI software tools where they can create these algorithms where they're able to detect these hidden patterns within the data and anomalies in real time. And so our joint customers have already reported, and there's a few banks out there, you can go research it if you want, they've already seen a 40% improvement where they can detect anomalies and make fraud decisions in real time. And so the real time is just milliseconds. And so we were talking yesterday about that. This right here, 7 milliseconds, it can do it faster than that. Okay, so it's really advancing in this space. Another one where generative AI paired with Omniverse, and you can see this example here running, is really transforming manufacturing. Factories of the future, smart manufacturing, supply chain, even product development. Auto manufacturers are looking for a way where they can not only develop their product, but they can test it before ever bending a piece of sheet metal. How wonderful would that be? And so they're able to do this today. And what you can see in the image here is first you have data coming in. And generally the data coming in, whether it's CAD or Edify or whatever, what's gonna happen is these programs were used to all be run disparately. So you had designers over here designing part of the car. You had someone over here doing the electrical part of the system. They couldn't work together, they had to stitch it together. In Omniverse, they're all connected through USD, and they're able to all work in concert together. So what you can see here is this car being constructed and reconstructed is a super digital twin that they were able to build together. And so that's Omniverse. So now you can take that super digital twin and apply generative AI to it. And if you look in the top right corner up there of the car on the far right, you can see that you're able to use that super digital twin to create a real-time configurator. So let's say you're in the market to buy a car, and you want to see how that car might look in your environment. You can use generative AI to change the environmental conditions and the color of the car so you can see how it looks. It could be cloudy, it could be sunny, it could be raining, it could be snowing. It snows where I live. And so you might want to see how that looks, and you're able to do this now in real time. Additionally, you can now generate cinematics. And so it looks like we shot a video of a car driving down the road. We didn't. We used two super digital twins. We created a digital twin of the mountain. We created a digital twin of the car. So you already have that. And now we apply generative AI to it, and you can see this car winding down this windy road where you can now generate cinematics and create commercial ads if you wish to do so. And another one is telco, and this is a great example. This was from about 1.5 years ago, but still a wonderful example. There's 15 million 5G microcells and towers that have to be deployed globally. And telecommunications companies have a challenge, where to place them. And so they want to find out the best way to do this. In building with Omniverse a super digital twin, and you can see here, this is a Santa Clara Valley area, they're able to do that to where they can now conduct 5G radio wave signal propagation. You can see it there in the image. And so they're able to not only test, actually, they're not able to place the towers, but they can now visualize and calculate the quality of the signal, as you see in the image there, as the car is moving with NVIDIA ray tracing. So they're able to use the signal to check the signal strength, all generative. It also offers them the ability, and by the way, that didn't stop on purpose, the video is over. But they're also able to look at things like the terrain. You know, is it flat or is it hilly? They can look at the buildings. Are there tall buildings, short buildings, a lot of buildings? And they can take that into consideration. And the last part of it that they do look at is foliage. Are there a lot of really tall trees in the way? Are they densely populated? Are they spread out? All these things take into account when they're placing these systems because 5G requires more microcells and more towers than what we had previously. So the result here is that they're able to place these towers in locations to best place their 5G equipment and deliver the best possible performance they can to their users.
Oh, that's great. And the visuals, when you shared them with us, it really hit home. So thanks for sharing that. Now, earlier I was talking about the challenges people are experiencing, and I'm just scratching the surface on the challenges that are out there.
Yeah.
Could you give your perspective on what you're seeing and hearing?
Yeah, so you heard Krista talk about many things, and one of the challenges she talked about is data challenges. This is really the most important because data is what fuels AI, and managing that data is going to be so crucial for every enterprise, for every customer that wants to get into AI. So without that high quality data, that private data, that reliable data, results can not only vary, but they can be inaccurate and they can be biased, and that's not something enterprises want. So that's a top of mind item for them. Another thing is energy, and in Europe, energy obviously is a big problem. And I think of energy in two ways. I think of energy as energy consumption and energy efficiency. And with energy consumption, that obviously puts a tremendous strain on resources and cost. In energy efficiency, we can work with energy efficiency to improve it if we can improve our accelerated technologies to drive down the energy efficiency. By doing that, we can drive down the PUE that enables us to reduce power consumption. So as long as our products and our server solutions that we integrate them to are energy efficient, we can drive down the cost of energy. And one example we think about is, we just reported recently that in the last 10 years, so over the past decade, we've been able to improve our inference performance and efficiency by 100,000x. And so when I was looking at that number, I was thinking, man, we're gonna have to give an example of that, because if it was 1x, 2x, 5x, maybe 10x, maybe 100x, I can compute that in my head, but there's 3 more zeros to think about. And that was a tough example. So we started thinking about how can we compare this to something that's relatable. So we thought about electric cars. Okay, so an average electric car, I don't have one, so I'd ask my friend, I said, how far can your electric car go? He said, 300 miles. So if we were to take that electric car that can go 300 miles in a full charge, and we improve it by 100,000x, the car can now drive 30 million miles, right? So you start thinking, well, I only have 50,000 miles in my car and I've had it for 6 years, so how far is 30 million miles? Well, the circumference of the Earth is 25,000 miles, so it's 1,200 trips around the Earth on a single charge. That's the impact of energy efficiency that we're trying to drive into the data center, where we can really make a difference in how we're deploying solutions. And another one is infrastructure, and this is a big one. And you know, deploying AI is still very challenging today. And customers want to deploy, but they don't want to spend all this time trying to figure out how do we define it, how do we set up this configuration, how do we deploy it. What they want to do is they want to take something, they want to be able to deploy it, they want to build their product, they want to gain insights, and they want to get to production. And so that's another challenge that many customers are trying to figure out is, do we do this on our own or do we not?
Yeah, and I remember the first time we pulled together a Gen AI solution, and there were so many things to consider. There was a lot of back and forth, decisions to make, so there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and to Krista's point, so several months ago, it was kind of a meeting of the minds where we had HP and NVIDIA working together. And what we were trying to do is create these end-to-end reference architectures that we could build and then quickly deploy. And when you start looking at the problem you try to solve is that there's many large language models out there. There's a difference in what customers are looking to do with AI. And so you have areas that you need to focus on. And so when we started looking at what's the right GPU for this particular model, and then we'd say, all agree that that was the right one. Now, what about the networking? How do we stitch networking then? What's the right amount of storage we need? And then how do we expand this cluster over time? So all those things were taken into consideration. And I think we thought it would take a lot less time than it did, but it took time. But now imagine you're an enterprise customer, and we had kind of the best of the best working on this, and now you're on your own. And a natural question you're gonna ask yourself is, what do I need? How do I start? And how do I scale this? And so that's a tremendous challenge. But together, we worked on those several months for a good reason. We were able to simplify these solutions and these deployments for enterprise customers through HPE Private Cloud AI. And we were really grateful to partner with HPE to bring the solution to market to where enterprises now have the choice of choosing the right size for their solution, and they can scale it over time. So the offering has entry solutions at the small all the way up to extra large, so L40S all the way to GH200 NVL2. And so now they have a choice, and they also have a choice of location. It could be on-prem, it could be in a colo, or it could be at the edge. So we were thrilled to partner with HP and bring this solution to market, and we're so excited to see what else it's going to offer in the future.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in a little bit. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming to share all of these experiences that NVIDIA's had. It's been great.
Yeah.
I always appreciate having a conversation with you about AI.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks, everyone.
Take care. Thank you. All right. Well, as you can see, HPE and NVIDIA are partnering to simplify AI for enterprise customers. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about innovation, and to do that, I'm going to invite up John Carter. He is the Vice President of Mainstream Compute.
All right, thanks, Krista, and good morning, everybody. It is great to be back in Barcelona. It's been a few years since I've been back here. And Krista mentioned that AI is, an evolutionary workload, and what's really been astounding about it is just how quickly that evolution has happened. And that's why it's important to bring together people with expertise, but also who spend every waking moment of their day thinking about this stuff. And that's kind of what our lives have become, is spending our day thinking about all of the changes, all of what's new, all of what's evolving. And that's what we can help bring to bear. But I think it's also important to remember that all of that aside, AI is a workload. Like workloads that we've seen in the past, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of workloads come and go. And the foundation that you get with HPE ProLiant, which has been around for more than 30 years, has built up to being able to support this workload over that time. So you get the security, you get the reliability, you get the performance that you would expect from a ProLiant system, now brought to bear on this new workload. So you can trust that foundational layer. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here today. But to do that, you've got to first free up the capacity in your data center and in your budgets to be able to handle it. Because while all of this evolutionary, goodness is really, changing businesses and changing the world, as Mike mentioned earlier, and how we approach problems, it takes a lot of capacity to solve. And last time I checked with any of you, you didn't get double the data center space, you didn't get double the budget, you didn't get double the power. And so you've got to figure out how do you create that capacity within your existing means. And the good news is you heard a little bit there about just the immense improvements in efficiency for performance. And that's true across servers as well. And what we're seeing is that while customers love their old systems, every time we go to a data center, somebody wants to show us something hiding in a corner or a closet that they've had for 15 years, right? And it's still running. But what we find is, people don't understand just how inefficient those systems are, and really just how fragile they are as well. So our latest studies have shown that getting a new server today, our current Gen 11 systems, you can actually replace up to 11 old Gen 8 systems. 11 systems with one system, and not only does that get you the same performance, but you can do it for 90% less power. And I know that's especially a big deal here in Europe, where those power costs become a little bit high over the last few years. But it's not just the power, it's not just the performance, but also think complexity. And for any of you who were in Antonio's keynote yesterday, you heard Neil talking about this a little bit in terms of as a system ages, as you have more generations, as you have more patches, as you have all kinds of things that have happened over the life cycle of that system, complexity grows and grows and grows. And being able to remove that complexity, or at least deal with it in a modern way with modern management tools, modern security infrastructure, really brings a lot of simplicity back to your data center. It frees up your time so you can go deal with the important problems, not keeping the lights running. So once you're able to do that, what we provide today is a whole slew of new systems with our Gen 11 systems and a few Gen 12 systems that we've already announced. Our most recent of which are actually 4 new servers in our Gen 11 portfolio that we just launched last month. And these servers use the AMD EPYC 9005 series processor set. That is our DL325, our DL345, our 365, and our 385. So all 4 of these new systems have just been fully refreshed with a new processor set. Not only do they provide 35% better performance than the last generation of system, but they do that with 25% better energy efficiency. So more performance, less energy. Bringing this together, these systems that just launched about a month ago have already set 38 new world records for standard workloads across your data center, like virtualization, data management, a number of other things. So really leaps and bounds here in terms of how quickly the infrastructure is evolving and the savings that that provides to you all to be able to go do some of this cool new stuff. But we talk about AI as a workload, and I really like to talk about workloads need right-sized solutions. That gone are the days where a Swiss Army knife approach solved everything in your data center, where I could take a DL380 and just slap anything on it, and great, that's the best system. What's your workload? Nope, I've already got the answer. It's a DL380. So we don't live in that world anymore, unfortunately, because it makes my job lots harder. But I think just in the last 2 generations, we've almost doubled the number of platforms that we provide because the technologies have evolved. They've gotten much more specialized. They've gotten much more focused on right-sizing kind of the balance between what storage do I need, what acceleration do I need, what processor set do I need, and how do I bring those things together? How do I coordinate them, secure them, manage them? What's right for that workload? And that's before we even talk about where is it being deployed, right? But because of that, because there are such unique needs to this workload, we have developed a unique set of products to be able to respond to it. And so you've heard a little bit about this already from some of the keynotes, but we're going to talk not only about some of the solutions, but the underpinnings of that as well. And I think it's important to talk about that, not just because I like talking about the blinky lights and all the actual speeds and feeds of things, but also because you keep hearing people talk about data, right? Data is the lifeblood of AI. Data is important. Data is the critical resource for an enterprise. These AI workloads bring risk to data for companies that they've never seen before, because all of a sudden now data is your most valuable asset. And you need to be very, very careful with how you secure that data while it's being analyzed, while it's in transit, where it's created. And so building that secure foundation is really critical to understanding how the safety of this workload is going to be managed. So hopefully by now everyone in here has heard about private cloud AI, yes? Raise of hands? All right, a lot of good hands. I'm glad to hear that. So hopefully you've heard about it. Private Cloud AI is our turnkey AI solution. You heard Krista talk about it. You heard Mike mention it. You heard about it on stage yesterday. Hopefully you get to see it live this week in a number of different demos. But what's really, really important about PCAI is that it was co-developed between HPE and NVIDIA. And you heard Krista and Mike talking about this, that we spent months going back and forth, talking about, well, what's the right NIC? Well, how many NICs do we need? Well, what's the right GPU? Right? Well, how do we think about the GPU to NIC balance? And how do you scale that when you want to go out to 2 systems, 3 systems, 4 systems, right? And so there's a lot of complexity that goes into optimizing this kind of infrastructure. And right now, most of you all are really focused on the problem, right? You're thinking about, how do I actually bring return to our investment in these AI conversations? What am I trying to solve? And you don't have the time to spend months and months and months figuring out how to optimize the infrastructure layers, how to optimize the software layers that sit underneath it. And that's the beauty here, is that we've built a simple, scalable, and t-shirt-sized way that you can not only get started with AI, but you can then scale and grow over time. It starts with that scaling. It starts with that simplicity of configuration, but it's also delivered to you in a cloud-like experience, which means that it's very simple to manage, to observe, to monitor. The security capabilities are all built in, and all of your workflows come together under one single platform. So it unifies everything. It gives you a simplicity of experience, and it helps shorten your time to value. But foundationally, these systems that you see up here on the screen, right, they're built on that ProLiant legacy that I talked about here at the beginning. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the actual unique servers that we've built that power PCAI. So 2 new servers we announced over the summer that you can see up here on the screen. Up on the left is what we call the ProLiant Compute DL384 Gen 12. And that uses 1 or 2 of the NVIDIA GH200 and NVL2 superchips. So this is NVIDIA's combined CPU and GPU architecture that really optimizes for that bandwidth between those pieces of the infrastructure and unlocks workloads in ways that no other system can. On the right, you see the newest generation of the HPE ProLiant DL380A Gen 12. Now, this was based on the 380 design that hopefully everyone knows and loves, and has been optimized for acceleration. And the latest generation NVIDIA processors supported here include the H200 NVL. So this is a PCIe-based system, works in standard data center racks, functions just like GPUs that you've had, for years and years and years. So it doesn't require a bunch of specialized infrastructure. It doesn't require a specially built data center with cooling and dense power. You can plug and play this in the data center space you've got today and get it running. Both of these systems are extremely performant. We announced them back in June at Discover in Las Vegas. They both start shipping here at the end of the month officially. And we've already seen just a number of #1 placements across AI workloads. #1 performance for a single accelerator, #1 best performance on Stable Diffusion XL. You can read through the list here, but there's just record after record after record with these systems. So we're really, really excited that we get to deliver them into the private cloud AI solution. And these are going to provide that computing foundation to be able to give you the performance you need for your AI workloads. But these systems, like we've talked about, while they're very efficient, do create quite a bit of heat. And you heard Neil talk about this yesterday, that when you burn your finger, you don't blow on it, you put it under a faucet. I hadn't heard that one before, but I liked it. And the really interesting thing here is that not only does that make intuitive sense, but liquid actually pulls out 4 times the heat of air. And so a liquid cooling strategy is absolutely critical to the advancement of AI solutions. And this isn't just true at the supercomputing level, right? So we get to take our 50+ years of experience in this space with supercomputers, our over 300 patents in building out liquid-cooled systems, and we get to bring those down to the enterprise space. So you can already see a number of ProLiant systems today that support full direct liquid cooling. You're going to continue to see that portfolio expand as we get into next year. And this isn't just something that we support in the data center, but it's also something we're looking at in more disparate locations. Liquid cooling at the edge is going to be just as important as liquid cooling in the data center. And then finally, I've talked about security a number of times, but it wouldn't be a ProLiant pitch if I didn't spend a couple of minutes talking about how we do security a little bit differently. So hopefully all of you have heard of HPE ILO. This is our secure baseboard management chip that we run on all of our systems for years and years and years. And we believe it's a true differentiator in the market because we are the only ones out there today that actually build their own management chip. And that's really important to us because we build security in all the way down at that silicon level. We burn hash values into the actual chip itself that allow us to create a secure chain of trust all the way up to the operating system and make sure that you're protected from malware, from ransomware, We create a digital fingerprint that identifies each individual server. But we go beyond that too, right? It's not just the firmware. We offer supply chain services that allow you to make sure that you understand where your system is coming from. The system is secured all the way through transit. You can see any change that happened to that system. We offer physical security on the servers themselves, on the racks. We secure firmware, we secure BIOS. We even secure third-party options that are put into those systems and can validate the authenticity of those pieces of the system. And this is a trusted foundation that's been in place for millions of servers over the years. So you can trust it now to support your AI workloads as well. But we've talked a lot about these servers that exist in data centers and these large clusters of servers that run AI. That's not where all systems live anymore, right? We're seeing more and more systems now being deployed at the edge. As workloads continue to evolve, data is created out at the edge, and people need to process and move that data around where it's created. So what comes with that is the need to manage that data, manage those systems. I can't send out a tech every time I've got a gas station or a retail store. I can't have an IT crew that lives at every single one of those locations. That could be hundreds or thousands of locations. And so this is where simplified, unified remote management really becomes critical to the story. And we introduced HPE Compute Ops Management to play just this role in our portfolio. So COM, as we call it colloquially, addresses a lot of common customer challenges when they think about manage across data center and across their edge. We hear from customers about inefficient remote management. I can't do all of the actions that I need to do. I still have to go on site to do certain things. We talk about firmware patches where something goes wrong and the system goes down. I've got a workload that goes dark, and I can't deal with that remotely. And as some of these things, we also see customers who are exposed to security vulnerabilities, not just because there's some, whatever the latest virus or hack out there was, but configuration drift continues to be one of the biggest security vulnerabilities that customers face all over the world, is I just don't have time to update my system. I need something that's faster, I need something that's more efficient, and I need something that I can manage centrally and understand where I have gaps. So COM really increases the operational efficiency of being able to securely automate that process, access those systems, monitor those systems, and manage the servers regardless of where they live, whether it's the data center or whether it's a closet somewhere next to a broom, right? And we have pictures of customers with mops leaning next to their servers, so that's very real. With Compute Ops Management, though, it's very real results that we're already seeing from customers. We've had real customers talk about reducing their management times. They've cut up to 75% on updates, going from it taking 8 hours to do an update for their systems down to just 45 minutes, right? That's a whole working day that they just saved. We've seen them go from 4.8 hours in downtime per server per year, or save 4.8 hours in downtime per server per year. That's a lot of time as well when you start thinking about how many systems many of you have in your environments. And finally, we think about real costs, right? The cost to travel to remote locations to deal with problems, the cost of software to deal with these complex environments. We've seen customers save up to $100,000 over 3 years by deploying Compute Ops Management and cutting back on the need to deploy those resources remotely. So finally, the biggest thing that we've heard from customers who have started using COM is they've gotten their weekends back, they've gotten their evenings back, they've gotten their nights back. They're not sitting on call at 2 in the morning hoping that a patch goes through so they can actually go back to bed, right? It's all done remotely, it's all done automatically, and they get their lives back to spend with their family. So really, really great benefits of deploying COM. So talking about Edge, that brings us to another new server that we announced just about a month ago. We just launched this in September, so I guess 2 months ago. But COM, ILO, ProLiant, performance and reliability, they all come together for this new server in what we call the HPE ProLiant DL145. And this is really an edge-specific server that was built for accelerated workloads and some of the unique new data-centric needs that we see across many industries. Right, edge computing is not just in one place anymore. It's not just retail. It's not just healthcare. We see it at airports. We see it at everywhere from sports arenas. You saw some stuff in videos yesterday, to every other workload you can think of. Data is created everywhere. Customer experiences are created everywhere. And more you need that data to be processed and to live at the edge where it's created. So we have a number of different edge solutions. We have for many years. What's really changed for us is the ability to now serve some of these more accelerated workloads, to provide custom solutions, to provide options from NVIDIA and others, to be able to really fuel the new AI revolution that's happening at the edge. Some of the needs that we've really built this server to address are higher performance than some of our traditional edge solutions. Too often we see edge solutions that are really just kind of SMB solutions that have been adopted because they're our low power kind of things, and that's where they can live. This has really been custom built specifically for the accelerated edge. It's compact, it's resilient, it's got dust filters built in, it can hit a wide variety of temperature ranges from -20°C all the way up to 55°C, so extreme heat conditions. It's very easy to deploy. COM allows you to do full remote deployment and management of your system. And finally, you heard Krista talk about earlier, it fits anywhere, right? You can put it on a table, you can put it on a desk, you can put it on the wall, in a rack. Very, very versatile. So really, it's a best of both worlds. You get all the performance of a classic data center system, all the power that you would expect, but you also get all that you would expect from a ruggedized edge server, bringing all that resiliency, all that power efficiency down to this platform. So if you want to see it live, we do have it out on the show floor. Feel free to stop by the hardware zone, and we can walk you through exactly how it works. And it really helps give you a perspective on just how small and compact this system is. But stop by if you get a chance. We have a customer with us today who's already deploying compute at the edge to power AI experiences across retail. Sensei, which is using AI to transform shopping experiences for customers across Europe and Latin America, is going to join us here in just a second, but I want to start by giving a little glimpse with a video.
We are on a mission to change the way the world shops with autonomous stores, with no queues, no friction, no hassle for shoppers. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and NVIDIA are of paramount importance. Having a cluster based on reliable machines equipped with powerful GPUs plays an essential role in all computer vision tasks. They are essential to run the algorithms that track customers and products in our stores in real time.
So I'm very excited to welcome the stage from Sensei, Joanna Raphael, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer there at Sensei. So thanks for joining us, Joanna.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, John and Krista, for inviting Sensei to share our successful OEM partnership with HP Enterprise, and actually how our computer vision technology is integrated with HP computing.
Great. Could you start by telling a little bit, everybody got to see the video there, but share with us kind of what your vision at Sensei is and what really drove you to develop your solutions?
Sure. So actually, we are all talking here about artificial intelligence, right? And AI is actually at the core of everything we do at Sensei and the backbone for autonomous stores. So as a company at Sensei, we are on a mission to redefine retail and remove all the friction we have in physical retail stores by turning them autonomous and completely checkout free. And with this, we are creating the most seamless experience for the customers who are using the store, and also digitizing the store operations for the retailer benefit, and leveraging on the power of all the new data we are extracting from these physical stores. And actually, when we started out this company, so I co-founded it 7 years ago, and together with my co-founders, we were looking to the trends on autonomous driving. They were already starting, and we thought, if it's possible to have an autonomous car, why not an autonomous store? And actually, this was the kind of challenge that made us create Sensei. It's actually simple to say, but it's actually complex to build, and it's quite a complex solution to deliver a very ubiquitous solution in retail stores that is inclusive and on the hand on any retailer and to the use of any customer who even don't notice the technology when they are in the store. And actually, those customers, all of us, we want convenience. We don't want to lose time when we go to supermarkets. And actually, all of us, we lose billions of hours collectively all around the world, every day shopping in convenience stores, in supermarkets. And we actually want to get rid of all of that and deliver all those hours back so we can spend them in a better way. And actually, we all look for the emotion and the immediacy and convenience of the physical store, but with the efficiency of the digital store.
So I've loved getting to talk to you a little bit about that customer experience and how thoughtful you are in really thinking through every step of the process. Could you expand for everybody a little bit on how you think about the experience for the shoppers?
Yes, sure. And we are actually showing you a video about that. This is a store we have with a partner in the north of Italy. It's Conad brand. It was actually the second autonomous store we opened in Italy. And it was actually the second with this brand and the first ones in the country. And actually, let me explain everyone, you can also see it there, how the experience is like to enter an autonomous store powered by computer vision technology. So in the Senseye-powered stores, what we have imagined is what would be the most convenient shopping experience that the state-of-the-art technology can bring you. And actually, as a customer, when you walk in the store, you have no check-in, so you have no barriers, no apps, you don't need to download anything to scan anything. You just walk in, as you do in any supermarkets, okay, today. And you just do your shopping, as you always do, so you grab the products from the shelves, the bread, the fresh fruits, everything you have in normal supermarkets. And the difference is when you are ready to go, you get to the checkout of the store, and Senseye technology and algorithms will display you automatically your checkout basket. So you're going to see it in a screen, you can confirm it, and before you leave the store, and you will be able to conveniently choose to pay with a tap of your card, with your phone, or even with cash. So this is actually, the most convenient way, and you don't have to change your behavior actually in these stores. So we have other video here where you can see the different use cases that we are applying this technology. And here, we like to think that we are not just creating stores. We actually are writing a little piece of the retail history and the retail revolution with AI with our retail partners, and also HPE, of course. And we are pioneering a new era for retail. Actually, today, we are already live 3 years after launching in the market. We are already live in about 100 points of sale, spanning from full-fledged supermarkets to convenience stores, and also to unattended, unmanned stores in highway service stations, in cinemas, in hotels, and corporate offices all across Europe and Latin America.
So it's...
And actually, with these solutions, there are actually no lines, so there are no queues. You get rid of all of that, and you don't need to scan, so there's no scanning in this type of stores, and it really gets as easy as going to your fridge at home, but in your supermarkets. And actually, for us, we think this is, for us and the retailers, this is actually a holy grail. You get the best of the store experience without the friction by the end when you need to do your payments. And actually, this solution that I'm here showing you with the real-time basket in the store, where you don't have a check-in, but at the checkout, everything is fully automated, is actually one of a kind in the industry and puts us ahead of competition.
Great. No, it's a really impressive solution. I love how flexible it is. But selfishly, I'd love to hear a little bit about the infrastructure it takes to make this work.
Sure, of course. And actually, let me start by telling you how the technology behind this works,
sure.
Okay, just to start. So at Senseye, we have developed the most advanced computer vision algorithms that are tailored for the retail industry. And actually, in the store, what you will see is that we deploy an array of ceiling cameras and sensors, weight and position sensors on the shelves. And also, of course, we will detect everything that you take out of the shelf as a customer, and we'll compute automatically your virtual baskets. And if you change your mind and you put it back on the shelf, we'll actually monitor the shelf inventory in real time for the retailer. So all of this is actually being processed, these video images and the sensor fusion data is being processed on the premises of the store using a micro data center we deploy with HP ProLiant servers that you just talked about. And we'll look forward for the new advancements to experiment them out. And NVIDIA GPUs, actually, this is powered by a lot of NVIDIA GPUs as well. And we are processing all this data in real time at an unprecedented level. So for you to have an idea, we are processing about 2 million video frames per minute and more than 1 million real-time baskets on the stores.
That's great. So I'm sure with all that complexity, there's some challenges that you all have run into along the way as well. Could you share that?
Yes, sure. So in terms of infrastructure challenges, you can bet that all this real-time processing requires a lot of sophistication, and that's why we actually use computing on the edge, so on the premises of the store. And so every retail store that is autonomous has in the back office, they have a small data center or a large data center, depending on the size of the store and the processing we are doing. And actually, we are handling data, and this is actually big data. So this places, of course, significant demand on the computing power, on the servers, and the network to support it. For example, in a supermarket, we can have up to 4,000 connected devices getting data processed at the same time to deliver the final shopper basket before he leaves the store. And of course, this is only possible if you have enterprise-grade hardware, sophisticated servers like the ones we use from HP Enterprise, combined with our proprietary software platform and algorithms. And this is key for security. John has talked extensively about it. We are using all those capabilities. And also, this solution on premises allows us to be fully GDPR compliant and assure the user privacy. So no videos leave the premises of the store, and they are fully anonymized immediately. And actually, this helps us to fulfill our mission, which is having privacy by design. So as a customer, when we enter a stall like this, we are fully anonymously until the end of our journey. When we pay to the retailer knows who we are because we're using maybe our credit card or our loyalty. But the system, the algorithm, doesn't know who we are. It's not necessary to perform this task. So privacy is totally assured. It's quite important for our company to make sure this happens like this.
Great. So Sensei is clearly very cutting edge in how they think about computer vision and how they think about AI. I'd love to hear a little bit more about where you see AI going and maybe what's next for Sensei.
Yes, sure. So AI, we are just actually scratching the surface. You're showing advancements every day and in different industries. And actually, in the retail industry, beyond the fact that this technology is so ubiquitous, and you really don't notice it in the store. It's really like, you mix bits and atoms. So you are in a brick and mortar store, and you have all these bits around you that are invisible. And this is, very inclusive, because you don't need to change your behavior or adapt the way you shop in the retail store, but you're actually empowering retailers. We were talking a lot about data before. And in a case like this, brick and mortar stores, before this technology was out there, didn't have a lot of data beyond the POS, beyond their sales. It was kind of a black box, really different from what you had in e-commerce, where you know exactly everything the customer is browsing, if you left it there in the basket, everything. And now it's possible to know and to have all this data in a brick and mortar store. So everything is fully digitized. And what we are doing now and what is next is to empower the retail industry with all this data and all the operational insights about the shelf availability, the out of stocks, the replenishment tasks that today are being done very manually, and beyond, of course, the checkout scanning, et cetera, that are repetitive tasks that are being replaced by this technology. We are actually also providing a lot of customer and product data, having planograms of the shelf with all the heat maps, all the information that all the brands really would like to know about the store, and leveraging this with the fast data platform that we are launching and putting on the hands of retailers and their staff at the store level. And of course, what is next, I cannot avoid to say it. When you are showing the generation 11 and 12, we are really looking forward what computing is also advancing, the efficiencies that this can bring us, not only in terms of the computing efficiency, but also the energy efficiency that you were talking about. Also with the server cooling, with liquid cooling, this is something very interesting, because I think AI should be inclusive, sustainable as well, and this puts us a step forward on that mission. And for Sensei, what is next? Also, as a company, we have just announced and raised our Series A. So we are a startup, scale-up, and actually, this amounts our total funding to $26 million, and this allows us to be ready to scale up in new markets and deliver a more robust solution to any retail customer. And Actually, we are quite excited. Our teams are quite excited that we are going to open what is going to be the largest autonomous supermarket operating with computer vision in the world very soon. So then I invite you all to visit it when it's live.
Great. Now, first of all, congratulations on the Series A. But second of all, I'm excited to see the new store when it opens. And some of your labs you mentioned to me earlier sounded really cool to actually get to see in person. But thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story and your expertise. Hopefully everyone got something out of hearing from Joanna. But really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. And it's actually a pleasure to be back in Barcelona. Thank you, Chad.
Nice job. All right, so now to wrap us up, I'm going to invite Krista back up on the stage, who's going to share some final thoughts with us.
Thank you, John. All right. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Joanna. So you guys heard about the latest and greatest technologies. You've heard about how HPE and NVIDIA are working together to help customers on their AI journey across industries. I hope you know that we're here to help you, and we're actually waiting for you on the show floor, and we have several other sessions for you to go through. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great time at Discover, and I hope to connect with you soon. Thank you.